So today we are going to read about grapes. Because, of course, 2,000-year-old words about viticulture are exactly what we need to address modern social illnesses, right? Actually, it turns out that's exactly right. Good morning, friends. My name is Greg Simpson. This is our daily Lenten Devotional, and we are going to read from the book of Isaiah. We're reading Isaiah 5, the first 5 chapters, first 5 verses. Let me sing for my beloved, my love song concerning his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a very fertile hill. He dug it and cleaned it of stones and planted it with choice vines. He built a watchtower in the midst of it. He hewed out a wine vat in it. He expected it to yield grapes, but it yielded wild grapes. And now, inhabitants of Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more was there for me to do for my vineyard? What have I not done in it? When I expected it to yield grapes, why did it yield wild grapes? We have to dig into this a little bit to get what's going on. But I promise you, it is particularly relevant for our lives and our society today. So, a few things we need to know about this particular chunk of the book of Isaiah. This is often called First Isaiah. Most scholars split Isaiah into 3 parts, but First Isaiah is very, very focused on kings and kingdoms and empires, and it is a very social justice heavy conversation where the author is regularly calling out the society, the people, the culture, all of the things for having a lot of privilege and a lot of wealth and not using that to treat the people who need help well. So we're already feeling maybe this relates a little bit to us today. First, Isaiah gets really deep into the gap between the rich and the poor, the concerns that under the current standards, the rich just keep getting richer and the poor really, really struggle. See where I'm going with this? Is particularly meaningful. But then what does that have to do with a whole pile of grapes in a vineyard? Well, we need to also know that when the book of Isaiah talks about a vineyard, it's describing Israel, the country. And we can map ourselves onto that. I think we are invited to read ourselves into the place of Israel in this particular case. Lots of other places in the Bible, because Israel was very often the oppressed and the slaves, etc. It's not as easy for a colonizing power to read ourselves in, but this is actually when Israel was at the top of its game, when they were doing quite well, they were successful, and in that success, it bred greed and selfishness and hoarding. So if that's honest, we best get into this. So we've got this vineyard that is the person who's taking care of the vineyard is working really, really hard. Dug it all up, incorporated manure into the roots, planted it, built a fence around it, built a brand new wine press, all of the fancy things that you do to make a vineyard do well. And then the plants grew and the person cared for them. And finally, there's a little bit of grapes to harvest. We harvest them, and they try them, and they're bitter. That's when it says wild grapes. It's a little confusing here because it says, we expected grapes, but we got wild grapes. If we were reading it in the Hebrew, there's actually a little bit of a play on words. I'm not even going to try to pronounce ancient Hebrew, but the word for sweet and bitter are almost puns for each other. And so it's saying, I was expecting sweetness, but I got bitterness. So if we map that onto a conversation about ancient Israel, or maybe the cultures that we live in today, I'm going to name specifically the Western, Eurocentric, white-driven culture that I live in here in Canada, we have immense amount of privilege. We have immense amount of resources. Things go very, very well for us, especially people like me who are white and male and fitting all of those top of pyramid of privilege sorts of things. And yet, with all of this power and wealth and luxury, what do? We make sure that there are some people who don't ever get their part. We push people to the margins. We make it very difficult for members of the 2S LGBTQIA community. We make it very difficult for immigrants. We make it very difficult for Canada's Indigenous people. We make it very difficult for people whose skin color is different than mine, whose language choice is different than mine. All of those things that we talk about in the systems that hold others down, that's exactly what this is about. It's meant to be God calling out Israel, saying, I gave you all of the strength and all of the power. I gave you all of these gifts. And I said, take care of yourself and take care of the women, the widows, the orphans, and the alien in your land. All the way through the Old Testament, actually, even into much of the New Testament as well. The widows, the orphans, the alien in your land. Those are who we are meant to take care of, who they are meant to take care of. Anybody who is held out to the margins because of the systems they live within, we are meant to give good grapes, sweet grapes, the kind that make amazing wine. We are given all the resources so that we can do that. And then God engages with us and realizes, oh, bitter grapes. Bitter grapes. Because you got a few people who are hoarding out the power. You got a few people who are making really brutal decisions about who gets healthcare and who doesn't. Some other folks who are making hard lines on who can afford a house and who can't. These are the things that are being called out here. It's for you and for me 2,500 years ago. I do admit that sometimes I find a little bit of hope to realize, maybe we haven't come that far. But then there's a bigger part of me that says, we have had these words for 2,500 years. How have we not learned from this yet? And I'm saying that to me, to the mirror version of me. Greg, how have you not learned? To all of the white male people with power, how have you not learned? All of the societies, all of the systems, how have we not learned? God did all the things, gave us all of the opportunity to do great things. Greatness is within our grasp. We're not short of any of that. So, rather than sitting in that very hopeless feeling, oh my goodness, the world will never change, humans are garbage, we're stuck with this. I understand. If you're feeling that, I feel that sometimes too. But I also find a glimmer of hope. It means that we're not so broken that there isn't a way out. Even 2,500 years ago, the people who were writing this beautiful piece of work, they knew that there was a way to fix it. The way to fix it is to take all of the power and the privilege, all of those things, and use them for good. Quit hoarding. Quit selfishness, quit greed. I'm going to slip something slightly political in here, but it's like small p political. I'm not calling out any particular group or partisan politics thing, but I think we need to change some of our wording, especially around billionaires. Very often, they're the sorts of people who get stacked up as being particularly successful. Like they get described as, look, we need to behave like they are because they're doing something right. They have all this wealth. That's not what they are at all. So if you feel tempted to say a certain person is the world's richest person, just change one word. So-and-so is the world's greediest person. That's what that is. Unmitigated greed. These people who have billions of dollars, they wake up every morning with the ability to end world hunger, to give free education for every human on the face of the planet, to fix the healthcare systems in countries, very developed countries where it's catastrophically broken. All of those things. And they choose not to because they want to see bigger numbers in their bank account. That's the sorts of people that are being called out here. So you and I are most likely not in the category of world's greediest people. There's a very good chance that we're way closer to the ones who are being missed, the ones whose grapes are bitter in this case. But here's the thing. We all have the ability to change the systems, the situations in the tiniest little ways. Many of you have sent me messages saying, I feel like I can't make a difference, or maybe one day I'll make a difference. Here's the challenge. Today, make a difference today. make a teeny tiny little difference today, but choose one thing. Do that. Stick with it. And if you don't know exactly where to start, I've got 3 questions for you to ask yourself. And if you can answer 1, 2, or 3 of those, it will point you directly to how you can make a difference. So the first one is, who in your community is crying out for help? That should be fairly obvious, but start there. Who in your community is crying out for help? The second one is slightly more internal. Where have you been silent when you had a chance to uproot injustice? And the third one takes it outside of us again. What particular systems are you positioned well to challenge? What are the places where you see injustice in the world that maybe you have a skill set? Maybe you know people in that industry or in that system. Or maybe you've been part of it in the past and you actually have some secret insider information for how to make a difference. If you can answer those 3 questions and do the hard work, write it down, sort this through, then take action. Something concrete. I think that's what I love about this particular illustration so much, is it's so tangible. Now, I have never cared for grapes, but I live in a space where we can grow lots of vegetables and that sort of thing, and I happen to like vegetable gardening. So when it's describing how you care for grapes, I can picture that in terms of tomatoes or basil or peppers or green beans or any of these sorts of things. I know how to do that. It's a tangible thing. Do that for you. Turn this illustration into something tangible that you can understand, that you can wrap your head around, and then do it. Do it. That's what we're called into. Let us pray. God, we appreciate these hard-line invitations and reminders that it's up to us to act. Reminders that we have been given much privilege, much luxury, many gifts, a whole lot of power. Even those of us who feel like we don't have power in our particular environment, we still do if we look. We still do if we try. We still do if we step out of our own victim mentality and say, what do I have? How can I make a difference? We are blessed by you, God. May we use those blessings to make certain that others in this world are blessed as well. Amen. Thank you so much, friends. And I know that if all of us who watch this video do a tangible thing, I'm not saying we're going to topple a billionaire today, but I am certain that a little thing is going to get a little bit better. And only just a couple of days ago, we had a challenge kind of along these lines. A couple of you made comments, and I invite you to do it again. Comment below a thing that you can do, or maybe you're already doing. Because there'll be somebody else in the comments who's like, oh, I can do that too. We can build up each other in this way. Thank you so much for helping build this community, for caring for one another, and for being the sorts of vineyards that produce beautiful, sweet grapes that make the best wine. If you have missed any of the previous videos, there's a link up there for a whole playlist. You can subscribe in this particular area, or you just hang around and you get the next video tomorrow morning. I love you so much. Bye for now.